What if the legends about the Jinn are based on something real? What if I told you one of the most famous possession stories in history started with a grieving 13-year-old boy and a Ouija board? The boy's real name was never made public. Most people know him as Roland Doe, though some accounts call him Robbie Mohan. According to the story, he had been close to an aunt who introduced him to the Ouija board before she passed away. After her death, strange things reportedly began happening inside the family's home. At first, it was small. Scratches in the wall, odd sounds at night. Furniture appeared to move when no one touched it. But then it got worse. Witnesses later claim the boy spoke in voices that did not sound like his. Marks appeared on his skin, and whenever prayers were said near him, he allegedly became agitated, restless, and almost impossible to calm. His family searched for answers. Doctors and psychiatrists and professionals were reportedly brought in. But according to the people close to this case, nothing fully explained what they believe was happening. Eventually, the family turned to the Catholic Church. Several priests performed exorcism rites over a number of weeks. The details vary depending on who tells the story, but most versions end the same way. After a long time and a terrifying ordeal, the boy recovered. To this day, the case of Roland Doe remains one of the most debated, alleged possessions in modern history. Was it something supernatural? Was it fear, grief, rumor, or was the truth even stranger?
If you're anything like me, you first thought that might be a blue genie from a Disney movie, trapped inside a magic lamp and ready to grant 3 wishes. But here's where it gets interesting. That version is almost nothing like original stories. The Jinn are far more mysterious and much more complex. People see them as myth. Others believe they are spiritual beings living alongside us, even if we can't normally see them. And for millions of people around the world, Jinn are not just scary stories. So today on Cosmic Clarity, we are going to explore the world of Jinn, and we will explore where did the stories begin, some folklore and encounters. We'll also share a story of a young bride who had strange visits at night, and a story of a man who couldn't explain his seizures. Was there something more sinister at play? We'll also explore the different type of jinns and whether a jinn can possess a person and where jinns are thought to live. So the stories about the jinn begin in the Arabian Peninsula, as many people believe that some strange unseen beings lived in quiet and lonely places like deserts, caves, mountains and abandoned areas. People while traveling, when they heard any strange sound at night, they sometimes thought someone is nearby. And if someone gets lost in the quiet and lonely places, people believed the jinn abducted them. Later, in the 7th century, Islam gave a clearer explanation of jinn. Instead of saying they were just monsters from scary stories, Quran describes the jinn as another creature of God. There is even a chapter in the Quran called Surah al-Jinn, which means the jinn. Islamic tradition says that a group of jinn once heard the Prophet Muhammad reciting the Quran. Some of them were moved by what they heard and believed in the message. Others did not. This is important because it shows that the jinn are not evil. Like humans, some choose to do good and some choose to do wrong.
Now let me tell you about the bride who was visited at night. For generations, families and parts of the Middle East have shared a chilling story about a young woman who, shortly after her wedding, began waking up every night feeling that someone was sitting beside her bed. At first, she thought she was dreaming, but the feeling became stronger. She claimed she could hear a man's voice whispering her name. Sometimes, she said, she smelled an unfamiliar cologne in the room. As the weeks passed, she became withdrawn and exhausted. She insisted that an unseen being told her she belonged to him and that he would never let her love another man. Her family sought help from local religious scholars who believed she might be suffering from the influence of a jinn. They recited verses from the Quran and prayed with her regularly. According to the story, the experiences gradually stopped and she returned to her normal life.
You may have heard the names like ifrit, marid, or shayatin. Many of these names come from Islamic folklore, later writing, and regional traditions, rather than from the Quran itself. Over the centuries, storytellers added details, creating rich legends that became part of Middle Eastern culture. One of the best known is the ifrit. In folklore, an ifrit is often described as incredibly powerful, intelligent, and difficult to control. Stories portray them as proud and sometimes very rebellious. In modern books, movies, and video games, ifrit are often shown as fiery, supernatural warriors. But these portrayals are inspired more by folklore than by the scripture. Another famous type is the marid. Marid are frequently associated with the sea of vast oceans. Legend described them as strong, independent, and nearly impossible to command. Interestingly, many of the old genie in the bottle stories are believed to have been inspired by the tales of Marid. Even though the popular image has changed dramatically over time, then there are the shayatin, often translated as devils. In Islamic belief, shayatins are those who actively encourage people toward wrongdoing. Their leader is Iblis, who refused God's command to bow before Adam. It's important to understand that while Iblis from the Jinn, not every Jinn is a shayatin. Just as not every human chooses to do evil, not every Jinn is considered evil.
This story, which we'll be covering now, is about a young man who couldn't explain his seizures. The story has been shared in different forms across parts of the Middle East and South Asia. It tells of a young man who had always been healthy. Then, in his early 20s, everything changed. Without warning, he would suddenly collapse to the ground. His body would shake uncontrollably. When he woke up, he often couldn't remember what had happened. Doctors diagnosed him with epilepsy and prescribed medication. The medication reduced the seizures, but according to his family, he began having vivid nightmares, claimed to hear whispers, and when he was alone, his relatives believed something more than a medical condition was happening. Concerned, they visited a respected imam known for performing ruqya, the Islamic practice of reciting verses from the Quran and praying for healing. During one of the sessions, the young man reportedly became extremely emotional. His family believed they were witnessing the influence of a jinn. Over the following weeks, they continued both his medical treatment and his regular spiritual sessions. According to those who tell the story, his seizures became less frequent, his nightmares stopped, and he gradually returned to his normal life.
Now, can a jinn possess a person? One of the most talked about beliefs surrounding the jinn is the idea they can possess human beings. For many Muslims around the world, this is a real possibility. Others, including some Islamic scholars, interpret the relevant religious text differently and argue that many cases once attributed to possession are better explained by medical or psychological conditions. So, even within Islam, there isn't complete agreement on every detail. So, now what are the signs that people traditionally associate with possessions? In cultures where the belief that jinn is common, people sometimes attribute experience such as speaking in unfamiliar voice, extreme fear of hearing the Quran, unusual physical strength during an episode, violent mood or personality changes, hearing voices and sensing unseen presence, repeated nightmares, or overwhelming feelings of dread. But it is also very important to remember that these signs are not proof of possession. Many can also occur with medical, neurological, or mental health conditions.
Now, an interesting story to talk about is the baby in the cradle. For hundreds of years, mothers in villages across part of Middle East told a story that still gave people chills. It began with a healthy baby boy. He laughed, he smiled, he slept peacefully every night. Then one evening, his mother left him alone in his cradle for a few moments while she fetched water. When she returned, something felt different. The baby looked exactly the same tiny hands, the same little face, the same blanket wrapped around him. But his mother insisted he wasn't acting like her son anymore. He no longer smiled when she spoke to him. His eyes seemed distant. He cried for hours without stopping. Sometimes, she said, he would stare into empty corners of the room as though he were watching someone she couldn't see. As the weeks passed, the family became convinced that there was a real child had been taken and replaced by a jinn. The village elders advised the family to recite verses from the Quran, pray regularly, and ask God for protection over the child. According to the legend, the baby's behavior slowly changed, and he became calmer. He laughed again, and his family believed their prayers had been answered, and he was protected from the unseen.
Now, one of the biggest questions people ask is, if jinn are real, where are they? Okay. According to Islamic belief, jinn are part of the unseen world. That means they normally exist beyond human perception. The Quran doesn't describe a single place where all jinn live. Instead, Islamic tradition suggests that they can live in many different environments. One of the most common is deserts. Many old Arab traditions associate jinns with vast, lonely deserts. Travelers crossing the deserts at night often blame strange sounds, whispers, or mysterious lights on jinn. This is one reason deserts appear so often in stories about the jinn. The second place, a common belief in Islamic tradition, is that jinn may inhabit in abandoned places, old houses, ruins, or empty buildings, and places where no people live are often mentioned in many folklores. This doesn't mean every abandoned building has a jinn. It reflects a traditional belief that isolated places are more likely to be associated with the unseen. Some narrations and traditional stories mention caves, valleys, and remote mountains as places where jinn may dwell. These isolated locations have long inspired mystery in many cultures. Bathrooms and unclean places. Some authentic hadith mention seeking God's protection before entering a bathroom because it is considered a place where harmful jinn may be present. This is why Muslims recite a short prayer before entering.
Number 5 is graveyards. Many cultures associate graveyards with spirits or supernatural beings. However, Islamic scholars differ on whether graveyards are places where jinn commonly reside. While this idea is widespread in folklore, it is not clearly established in the Quran. Number 6 is marketplaces and crowded places. Some have cautioned believers to be mindful of their behavior in busy marketplaces because they can become places of temptation and distraction. Some scholars also connect these places with the activity of the harmful jinn, though the emphasis is primarily on avoiding sinful behavior rather than fearing the unseen beings. Number 7 is alongside human communities. Islamic teachings also describe jinn as having families, communities, and societies of their own. They are believed to eat, marry, and have children. Many scholars say they may exist alongside human beings, but in the realm we normally cannot perceive. Now for our cosmic debate. So I believe some things exist beyond today's technology can measure. History is full of experiences people couldn't explain. Whether we call them jinn, spirits, or something else, I think we should stay open-minded but grounded. Not every strange experience is supernatural, but not every mystery should be dismissed either.
And I think that's fair that not every mystery should be dismissed. But I usually start with the simplest explanation. If psychology, science, or environment can explain something, that's where I begin. Still, history reminds us how much once we didn't understand. Germs, radio waves, and gravity were once invisible mysteries. So I stay skeptical, but I also admit we don't have all the answers. The key is to stay curious without jumping into conclusions. So, are jinn real? For millions of Muslims, jinn are part of the religious belief rooted in the Quran. Beyond that, stories and personal accounts have been passed down for generations. Some have natural explanations, some still remain mysterious, and some become a folklore that makes each culture unique.
Whether you see jinn as spiritual beings, ancient symbols, or fascinating stories, they remind us that people have always been drawn to the unknown. Maybe that curiosity is part of what makes us human, and sometimes the journey is just as interesting as the destination. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Had you heard of the jinn before this video? Do you see them as religion, folklore, or something that might exist? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you've enjoyed this journey into the history's oldest mysteries, subscribe to Cosmic Clarity. Next time, we'll explore the ancient forest of Ireland and Scotland to uncover the world of the fairies, beings once feared far more than admired. Until then, stay curious, keep an open mind, and we'll see you in the next episode.